A signal from the void. The darkness of space was a place where silence reigned, a vast emptiness that swallowed everything in its path. But deep within this endless black, a new sound broke the stillness. A signal. It began as a faint whisper, an anomaly that no one had expected, let alone prepared for. A signal that would shake the foundations of everything they knew about the universe. The crew of the Vanguard, an exploration ship from the Zorith Coalition, was the first to detect it. They had been on a routine mission, charting uncharted regions of space in a distant part of the galaxy. The signal had come from a forgotten sector, an area once believed to be dead, without any life or intelligence to send a message. But as the Vanguard sensors picked up the faint frequency, it became clear that something was wrong. This wasn't just any signal, it was a message, and it carried a weight that no one could yet understand. Captain Kira Trask leaned over her console, squinting at the data. The signal was fragmented, but it had an unmistakable rhythm, a pattern that suggested intelligence. It wasn't random noise. This was deliberate. As she studied the signal, something about it felt hauntingly familiar. It wasn't until the third transmission that the words became clear. They thought we were finished. Now they will remember us. The words echoed through the ship's comms system, low and almost mournful. The crew exchanged glances, their faces a mixture of confusion and unease. No one had expected to hear anything like this. Humanity had been gone for thousands of years, wiped out in a cataclysmic event that had devastated Earth. The galaxy had long since moved on, believing that humans were nothing more than a distant memory, an extinct species whose legacy had faded into the vast reaches of time. But this was a message from humanity, or at least something that once was. "Captain," said Lieutenant Zara Kellen, her voice trembling slightly as she studied the readings on her console. "This signal, it's human. It's coming from a satellite, an ancient one." Kira's heart skipped a beat. Humans were gone. The galaxy had made sure of that. The destruction of Earth had been swift and total, leaving no survivors, no trace of their civilization. What was this message? Who had sent it? Track it. Kira commanded, her voice steady despite the rising questions in her mind. Where is it coming from? Zara's hands moved quickly over her console, pulling up a map of the sector. "The signal is originating from a dead zone, Captain, a region of space where no human activity has been detected in centuries. But there's something strange. The signal's origin is from what appears to be an ancient satellite, buried deep within a collapsing star system." Kira's mind raced. The technology in that area was outdated, nearly lost to time. The idea that a human satellite could still be functioning, especially one so far from the center of human civilization, was unthinkable. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a simple distress call. No, this was something much more deliberate. Someone, or something, was trying to send a message, and it was clear that they were not only alive, but possibly still watching. "Are we the first to hear this?" Kira asked. Zara nodded, her expression tense. "Yes, Captain. No one else has intercepted this signal yet. But there's more. The satellite's position. It's in a region that was believed to be inhospitable. No one thought anything would survive there." A shiver ran down Kira's spine. This was more than a simple anomaly. The implications were vast, and they made her question everything she had believed about the fate of humanity. Could there really be survivors? Or was this message something else, perhaps a final warning? "Prepare the crew. We're going to investigate." As the Vanguard moved closer to the source of the signal, the crew grew uneasy. The deeper they traveled into the dead zone, the more eerie the surroundings became. The stars seemed to dim as if the darkness of space itself was closing in on them. No other ships were nearby. It was a vast, empty void, and the only thing breaking the silence was the hum of their engines and the strange, repetitive message that continued to echo in the background. "They thought we were finished. Now they will remember us." It became a chant in their minds, a phrase that haunted every corner of the ship. No one could explain it. No one could understand why this message had survived for so long, or who was behind it. The closer they got, the more the sense of dread settled over the crew. Finally, after what felt like hours, the satellite came into view. It was small, old, and barely visible against the backdrop of the dark star system. Its surface was battered and scarred, but its signal was strong, unmistakable. "There it is," Kira said quietly, her voice filled with both awe and trepidation. The ship's landing crew began preparations for a scan, but Kira couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for them. Something beyond just a message. The satellite, with its faded markings and weathered exterior, felt like a time capsule, a remnant of a world long lost. And yet, as the crew continued their scans, it became clear that the satellite wasn't just a relic. It was a warning. "Captain, you need to see this," said Chief Engineer Jalen Ross, his voice filled with disbelief. "This satellite, it's not just broadcasting a message. It's also transmitting coordinates. Coordinates to a hidden location, a place no one's ever heard of." Kira's heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't just a forgotten relic of humanity. It was a beacon, a call to something greater, something that had been hidden away for millennia. And now it was time to discover why. As the crew processed the data, one fact became undeniable. Humanity's legacy was far from over. Whatever the message meant, whatever this satellite was, it was a signal that they were not forgotten. And soon, the galaxy would understand. Humans were never truly gone. The signal had been a whisper at first, barely audible, but now it was louder, clearer, more insistent. The message echoed in the minds of the Vanguard's crew, as if it were more than just a simple transmission. It was a call, a warning, a reminder that humanity had not been completely erased, despite what the galaxy had believed for thousands of years. Captain Kira Trask stood in front of the massive viewing window, gazing at the coordinates the satellite had provided. The silent void of space stretched before her, broken only by the tiny specks of distant stars. The coordinates led them deeper into a dark, unexplored region. The space around them was practically a graveyard, filled with the wreckage of forgotten fleets and dead star systems. But now, Kira felt a surge of something powerful in her chest. There was more to this, something big. "Prepare for a deeper scan of the satellite," Kira commanded, her voice low but urgent. "I want to know everything. We can't afford to miss any details." The crew worked quickly. The satellite, though ancient, was still transmitting at full capacity, its signal still strong enough to slice through the cold emptiness of space. The hidden location the satellite had transmitted was not far away, but the question still lingered. What was waiting for them there? Lieutenant Zora Kellen, the ship's communications officer, studied the readouts closely. "Captain, there's more. The signal is consistent. It's almost like the satellite is guiding us." Kira's mind raced. Could this be a trap, or had the remnants of humanity left something behind? The questions kept piling up, but there was one thing Kira knew for sure. Whatever this was, it was not just a relic of the past. This was something alive. It was something that needed to be uncovered. As the Vanguard approached the new coordinates, the crew felt the weight of what they were about to discover. They were treading into uncharted territory. In this part of the galaxy, few had ever ventured, and even fewer had returned. It was a place where the stars were dim, and the void seemed to swallow up anything that came too close. This wasn't just an empty region, it was a place of forgotten history, a history that now had a voice. The crew gathered in the briefing room, their faces grim as they analyzed the data. Kira's mind flicked through the possibilities. She had seen things before, strange anomalies, deadly forces, but this was different. The coordinates weren't just pointing to some forgotten corner of space. They were pointing to a system that had once been a thriving center of human civilization, a system that had been wiped out in the final days of the war. The history of that conflict, of humanity's destruction, was one that no one spoke about anymore. The galaxy had moved on, assuming that the human race had been erased with no trace. But now, this message suggested otherwise. The satellite wasn't just some signal from the past, it was connected to the final days of humanity. Kira felt her pulse quicken as she realized what it meant. The last remnant of humanity had left behind more than just a message. They had left behind a key to something that had been buried, something the galaxy had forgotten. Captain, the system we're headed to is near an old, uncharted nebula. There are no reports of activity from this area for centuries. Zara's voice broke through Kira's thoughts. If humans did leave something behind here, it's going to be hard to find. We may have to search for weeks or even longer. Kira nodded. She knew the risks. But something in her gut told her that this wasn't just another wild goose chase. No, this felt important. Something deep in the pit of her stomach told her they were about to uncover something the galaxy wasn't ready for. Start scanning for any anomalies or hidden structures. We can't afford to miss anything. Kira said, her voice firm and unwavering. We're not turning back until we find out what's out there. As the Vanguard moved deeper into the nebula, the crew began to feel the strain of the unknown. The nebula was dense, filled with strange gases and electrical storms that interfered with their sensors. It was a challenging environment, one that forced them to move slowly, carefully. The ship's systems were on high alert, and every crew member knew this mission could take a deadly turn at any moment. The nebula was a dark and hostile place, and there was a real chance they wouldn't find anything at all. But Kira's instincts kept urging her forward. Hours turned into days as they scoured the region. The crew barely slept, working in shifts to ensure nothing slipped through their grasp. Tension mounted as they combed through the data, running every possible scan. But it was Zora who found something first. Captain, you need to see this. Zora called from her station, her voice full of excitement. Kira rushed over to her, the rest of the crew following. Zora pointed at the display. There, hidden behind layers of cosmic dust, was a structure, an enormous metallic structure. It wasn't just any abandoned station or wreckage. This was something deliberate, something constructed. This is human design, Zora whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. The structure was unlike anything the crew had seen before. It had sharp, angular edges, unlike the rounded designs of most alien technology. The materials used in its construction were aged, worn, but unmistakably human. The satellite's signal had led them here, to this relic. The last remnants of humanity had hidden something here, buried away for reasons no one could yet understand. Prepare to dock. Kira's voice was steady, but inside, her heart raced. They were about to step into the unknown, a place where the past and future collided. Whatever lay beyond that structure, the galaxy would never be the same again. The crew braced for what was coming, knowing they were standing on the edge of history, ready to uncover a truth that would shatter everything they had been taught about humanity's end. The Vanguard hovered in front of the massive structure, its sleek form a stark contrast to the weathered ancient station it faced. The nebula surrounding them pulsed with eerie colors, an unholy mix of violet and crimson that seemed to shimmer with a life of its own. The ship's crew stood at the ready, a quiet tension hanging in the air as they prepared to dock. Captain Kira Trask's eyes were fixed on the structure before them. It was massive, almost like a fortress in the void, its dark metallic surface reflecting the dim light of the nearby stars. It felt like a forgotten tomb, a mausoleum to a long-dead civilization. Captain, we're ready to dock. Lieutenant Zora Kellen's voice broke the silence. Kira nodded, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. She felt a strange sense of unease creeping up her spine. Something about this place didn't feel right. The silence, the emptiness, it was all too quiet, as if the station itself were holding its breath, waiting for something or someone to step inside. Docking procedure initiated. Zora continued, her fingers moving swiftly over the controls. The ship began its slow approach toward the dark, looming structure, the air thick with anticipation. As the Vanguard docked, a quiet hum filled the ship's corridors, signaling the engagement of the airlocks. The crew wasted no time. They suited up, each member equipped with their standard gear, weapons ready. The air on the station, if there was any, had been dead for millennia. But they had to be prepared for anything. "Let's move," Kira said, her voice steady but filled with resolve. "We're not sure what's inside, but we'll find out. We'll take it slow, check every corner." The hatch opened, and the team stepped out into the cold darkness of the station. The inside was eerily silent, save for the occasional creak and groan of the ancient structure as it shifted in space. The walls were lined with strange, faded symbols, clearly human in origin, but distorted by time. The faint glow of the station's emergency lights flickered on, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly. Lieutenant Zara took the lead, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The crew followed closely, their footsteps echoing through the hollow corridors, their senses heightened. The further they moved into the station, the more it felt like they were walking through the ruins of a forgotten empire. The silence was oppressive, as if the walls themselves were holding secrets too dangerous to reveal. "This place is ancient," murmured Sergeant Riker, one of the soldiers on the crew. His voice trembled slightly as he ran his hand over one of the walls, feeling the cold, smooth surface. "I've never seen anything like this." Kira didn't respond immediately. She was too focused on the path ahead, trying to push aside the growing unease. What had happened here? Why had humanity left behind such a place, hidden away for so long? As they ventured deeper into the station, they came across a large chamber. The floor was covered in dust and debris, and the walls were adorned with more symbols, runes and letters that seemed to twist and shift in the light. In the center of the room stood a massive control panel, long forgotten and covered in layers of grime. It was unlike anything Kira had ever seen. The design was old, but there was something familiar about it, something human. "This is it." Kira's voice cut through the tension. "This is what we've been looking for." Zora moved forward, running her fingers over the dusty control panel. "Looks like the central hub of the station. If there's any data here, this is where it would be stored." The crew worked in silence, each person focused on their task. Zara began to interface with the controls, her fingers moving expertly across the screen. The ancient interface flickered to life, its once bright display now dim and cracked, but it still hummed with energy. "It's still working," Zara said, her voice filled with awe. "This technology, it's so old, but still functioning." A new voice cut in, one that wasn't Zara's. It was faint, distorted, but unmistakably human. "Help us, they are coming." The voice was a whisper, soft but clear, coming from the speakers on the control panel. It sent a chill down Kira's spine. This was a message, a warning, left behind in the darkest corner of the galaxy. "Who is that?" Riker asked, his voice barely a murmur. "Is that a recording?" Zara worked frantically, trying to decrypt the message. The voice grew clearer as she unlocked more of the station's systems. "It's a message from humanity," Zara said, her voice trembling. "It's a warning, a distress signal." The words echoed in the chamber, bouncing off the walls, growing louder with every passing second. Kira's mind raced as she processed the meaning of what was being said. "They're coming." "Who is coming?" Kira whispered, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. This wasn't just a forgotten outpost. This was something much more significant, something connected to humanity's final days, a time when the galaxy thought they had been wiped out for good. "Captain." "There's more," Zora said, her fingers moving faster across the console. "There's another message, a warning encoded deeper in the system." Kira nodded, her expression grim. "Let's get to it." The crew worked quickly, racing against time, knowing that whatever was coming, it was closer than they could imagine. This was no accident. The past was reaching out, pulling them deeper into the mystery. The message wasn't just a call for help. It was a last plea. A plea that the galaxy had ignored, thinking humanity was nothing but a shadow of the past. As the crew worked to uncover the truth, the stars outside seemed to grow dimmer. The shadows of the past were closing in, and the crew of the Vanguard was about to learn that humanity's legacy was far from over. The warning had been sent for a reason, and now they were caught in the middle of a storm that threatened not only their lives, but the future of the galaxy itself. The Vanguard crew stood frozen, staring at the flickering screen in front of them. The distress signal echoed in the quiet of the ancient station, the voice growing clearer by the second. "They're coming. They are coming for you." The words seemed to crawl under their skin, sending a chill through every member of the crew. Who had left this message? And why hadn't the galaxy ever heard it before? Captain Kira Trask couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger than just a forgotten human outpost was unfolding. The voice was a call for help, yes, but also a warning. There was a deep sense of urgency, a palpable fear, and the question that gnawed at her mind: what was coming? "We need to figure out who left this message and why it's here." Kira's voice was sharp, commanding. Her mind raced as she looked around the dark room, her senses heightened by the mystery that enveloped them. Lieutenant Zara Kellen, still working at the control panel, wiped her brow. "The station's systems are fragmented. But I'm getting pieces of data, Captain. There's a pattern, a map embedded in the signal." "A map?" Riker, one of the soldiers, raised an eyebrow. "A map of what?" Zara didn't respond immediately. Instead, she zoomed in on the map's coordinates, pulling up images of distant sectors of space. A few of them were marked, circled with red, seemingly important. Kira stepped closer, studying the data. This is where the signal came from," Zara whispered, almost to herself. "But there's something strange. The coordinates lead to a place called the Dark Nexus. It's in the deepest part of the galaxy. No one goes there." Kira's mind raced. The Dark Nexus. She had heard stories about it, whispers of an ancient, forbidden region of space, avoided by most civilizations for centuries. Legends spoke of it as a place where entire fleets had disappeared without a trace. Now, it seemed that humanity, or someone, had left a breadcrumb trail that led straight into it. "Captain, this is a big risk," Sergeant Riker said cautiously, his voice low. "The Dark Nexus is known for being deadly. If that's where the message came from, then it's not just a call for help. It's a trap. We can't ignore this." Kira's tone was firm. "Whatever the message means, it's important. We have to know what humanity left behind. It's our duty to uncover it." Zara nodded, her fingers quickly typing in commands. "I'm pulling up more information. There's a trace of something that was encoded along with the signal. It's a warning, a cryptic warning." The crew fell silent, each person drawn into the gravity of the situation. Kira could feel it too, the weight of the decision they were about to make. The galaxy had already written humanity off as gone. But this message, this map, suggested that their legacy was still very much alive. The question was, what had they left behind? And why? Suddenly, the lights of the station flickered, casting deep shadows across the crew. The temperature dropped noticeably, and the walls seemed to groan under the pressure of the ancient systems that held it together. "What was that?" Riker asked, his hand instinctively going to the weapon on his belt. "Something's happening," Zara said, looking at the flickering console. "The system is destabilizing. We need to leave now." Kira's eyes narrowed. Something felt wrong, too wrong. They had triggered something that had been lying dormant for millennia. It was as if the station had sensed them, awakened by their presence. Whatever had been hidden here, it was now reacting to their discovery. The entire station seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as if the walls themselves were alive. Kira motioned for the crew to move quickly. "We're getting out of here, but we need that map. Zara, download everything you can. We need to know exactly where we're going. Zara's hands flew over the controls, trying to pull up the last of the data, but the system was fighting her. The station seemed to be actively blocking them, shutting down anything that could reveal more. "It's like it's fighting me," Zara said through gritted teeth, panic creeping into her voice. "Get it done." Kira barked, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "Whatever is in the dark nexus, we need to be ready for it." Zara managed one final pull on the controls. The screen flashed, displaying coordinates once more, the location in the dark nexus that had been marked. But something else appeared, hidden beneath the map. A final message, almost like a riddle. The words flickered as the system tried to shut itself down. "Only the brave can survive the last test. The legacy of humanity lies here. Beware the children of the dark." The message was cut off abruptly, and the screen went blank. What did that mean? Riker whispered, eyes wide. "Children of the dark. What does that even mean?" "It's a warning, Riker." Kira's voice was calm but resolute. "We don't know who or what the children of the dark are, but we have no choice now. We have to go to the dark nexus and find out what humanity left behind." Zara quickly pulled out the data she had managed to download. The last part of the map blinked on the screen, coordinates that led straight into the heart of the forbidden sector of space. Kira turned toward her crew. "Prepare yourselves. Whatever awaits us in the dark nexus, we have to face it head-on." The galaxy thought humanity was gone. But now, we are about to learn what's been hidden all this time. The crew stood in solemn silence. The path ahead was dangerous, unknown, but there was no turning back now. They had uncovered something far bigger than they had ever imagined, something tied to the fate of humanity and the galaxy itself. The countdown had begun. They were headed straight into the unknown, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Vanguard sped through the cold emptiness of space, its engines roaring as it cut through the silence. The crew was silent, each person lost in their own thoughts as they followed the map into the heart of the dark nexus. It was a place no one ventured, a forbidden region of space surrounded by fear and mystery. The dark nexus wasn't just a sector of space, it was a warning in itself. Captain Kira Trask stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the vast blackness ahead. The coordinates on the screen flickered, leading them closer to their destination, but there was something about the darkness that felt different. It wasn't just the absence of light. It was a presence, something lurking just out of sight. A chill ran down Kira's spine as she thought about the cryptic message. "Beware the children of the dark." "Are we sure this is the right course?" Lieutenant Zara Kellen asked, her voice tight with anxiety. She was at the communications panel, scanning the data they had retrieved. "The Nexus, it's not just a place. It's been abandoned for thousands of years. Even the galactic records don't say much about it." "We have no choice now, Zara," Kira replied, her tone firm, though the unease was there in her eyes. "The message led us here. We're going to find out what humanity left behind, and why they thought it was so important." Sergeant Riker, standing near the door, clenched his fists. "This whole mission doesn't sit right with me. Something feels off. We've already lost contact with the outer ships, and now we're heading straight into a void where no one's come back from." "No one." Kira nodded but didn't speak. Riker was right. The further they traveled into the Nexus, the more the Vanguard seemed to tremble. The ship's hull groaned under the strain, and the lights flickered as though the ship itself were reluctant to go further. "This ship isn't going to hold much longer," Zara said, her eyes darting over the control panel, which was now showing signs of erratic power fluctuations. "We might need to turn back. The ship can't handle this kind of pressure." Kira held up a hand. "We keep going. We're too close to stop now." As they pressed on, the deep shadows of space seemed to grow thicker, darker, wrapping around them like a suffocating embrace. They were no longer in familiar space, no longer within the safety of known stars. The maps they had relied on now seemed useless, as if the very fabric of space itself was twisting, distorting around them. Suddenly, the ship's sensors blared a loud warning. A ripple of shock coursed through the crew as the ship shuddered violently. The sound of tearing metal echoed through the hull. The Vanguard was struck by something, but there was nothing there, nothing visible, just an overwhelming sense of dread. What was that? Riker yelled, grabbing hold of the nearest support beam as the ship shook. His voice was full of panic, his normally calm demeanor breaking down under the pressure. "I don't know," Zora shouted, trying to stabilize the controls. "We're being pulled, Captain. Something is pulling us in." Kira's hand shot out to steady herself. She moved quickly to the central console, her eyes scanning the readings as the tension mounted. They were being drawn deeper into the heart of the dark nexus, and there was no escaping it now. "Brace for impact," Kira ordered. The crew scrambled to hold onto their stations, securing themselves as best they could. The ship continued to tremble as the strange force around them intensified. There was no visible enemy, no fleet of ships, only an overwhelming invisible force that seemed to bend the very laws of physics. And then, just as quickly as it had started, the ship stopped shaking. The ship's systems fell silent, and the warning lights blinked out. For a moment, it felt as if they had crossed some unseen threshold. What the hell was that? Riker's voice was quiet now, full of disbelief. Kira slowly stood up from the control panel. "We're inside the Nexus now." Before anyone could speak, the ship's main viewport suddenly lit up with strange symbols, glyphs that flashed across the screen in an unrecognizable pattern. It was as though the ship was communicating with something, or someone. "It's the station," Zara said breathlessly, pointing to the view. "That's the station from the signal. It's right in front of us." The station was massive, a sprawling structure that stretched beyond the viewports. It seemed to float in the heart of the dark nexus, suspended in an endless sea of nothing. The surface of the station was covered in strange markings, symbols that were both alien and familiar. There was a dark, twisted energy surrounding the station, pulsing in time with the strange glyphs that flashed across the screen. "What is this place?" Riker asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't just an abandoned station. It's alive." Kira swallowed hard. The feeling of being watched, the constant sense of dread, was overwhelming. "I don't know, Riker, but we're about to find out." Suddenly, the comms panel crackled to life, and a voice echoed through the speakers, sending a jolt through the crew. "You found us. Welcome home." The voice was cold, distant, and full of ancient power. It was neither human nor alien. It was something else, something far older. "What is that?" Zora gasped, her fingers shaking over the controls. Kira's eyes narrowed. There was no turning back now. Whatever this was, whatever humanity had left behind, it was waiting for them. The voice, the station, the glyphs. They were all part of a terrifying revelation that had remained hidden for 40,000 years. "Prepare for anything," Kira said, her voice calm but laced with determination. "We're about to uncover the truth. And whatever is waiting for us, we face it together." The ship's engines hummed to life, and the Vanguard slowly approached the station. The crew stood tense, ready for whatever nightmare lay ahead. The galaxy had forgotten humanity, but they were about to remember. And whatever secrets the humans had left behind, it was time to face them. The countdown had begun. The crew was about to enter the heart of the dark nexus, and whatever awaited them, there would change everything.